This is TWiT.
Well, now
So there.
I think we have earned a little tipple.
Yeah, well, I'm at the Microsoft, the MVP conference, so I'm being delivered bottles of whiskey like as we speak.
Oh my God.
So yeah, but those will come out over the next few weeks. But one of the whiskeys I drank so far this week, we're here at the Aloft Element, which is right near campus. It has the best bar by far, and they've been tweaking their stock. And one of their top shelves this time around, though it's not especially expensive bourbon, is the Redemption High Rye Bourbon.
This is a pretty looking bottle.
Good looking bottle. And there's a bunch of variants on it. And part of the story will explain why they played with the bottle as much as they have. So this is a relatively recent entity. In 2010, a guy named Dave Schmier and his partner, Michael Kandar, started making Redemption. Now, they are not distillers. They don't own a distillery. These guys are brand guys. But they are plugged into the whiskey industry in the U.S., and they came across the availability of some aged casks of whiskey from a company called MGP-I. Now, MGP stands for Midwest Grain Products, and the I is ingredients, although it could also be incorporated and so forth. But the MGP-I. Now, this company's been around for a long time. A guy named Cloud Cray Sr. founded it in 1941 in Atchison, Kansas. But all he was doing, he was a distiller, but they were just making neutral spirits starting in World War II. And as far as I know, that factory still does that. But along the way, they acquired one of the old Seagram's distilleries, which was originally the Ross and Squibb distillery going all the way back to like 1847 in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Which was acquired by Seagram's around Prohibition times, and was scaled up as a very large distilling facility. Seagram's being the Canadian entity, and we've talked about them before, who eventually got into all kinds of luxury goods and essentially bankrupted themselves. And as the company was being dismantled, all of the liquor products ended up underneath Pernod Ricard. And then Pernod Ricard tried to rationalize all of this and sort of looked at the Lawrenceburg distillery and says, we don't need this, and planned to shut it down. But another group took it over. Then they had financial troubles, and then MGP ended up acquiring it essentially at a fire sale. But at that time, MGP wasn't really, they were making alcohol, but they weren't making retail whiskey products at all. They do now. It's become a big business for them, and this factory is kind of legendary for producing a huge number of things. So they've taken over the somewhat broken down distillery, but it had been in so much trouble for so many years at that point. There was just huge numbers of aged barrels sitting in these warehouses because there had been no bottling going on. And so MGP was trying to unload some barrels, and this is where Schmier and Kandar sort of acquire a bunch of them. And they called their entity Bardstown Barrel Selections, and started making different bottlings from the barrels they could get from MGP, and hit it on this thing called Redemption Rye. In an interview I read from David Schmier, he said there was maybe 5,000 cases a year of rye whiskey being sold when we started in 2010. And then within a year, we were selling more than 20,000 ourselves. To the point where he got a bit of a financial crunch and ended up selling the whole group off to the Deutsch family and Wine and Spirits Group in 2015. And now Schmier has gone on to make a bunch of other whiskey brands because he's not a distiller. He's a brander and a bottler. So he buys his whiskey where he can and then comes up with brands around it that people really like. And this has been a somewhat controversial practice because MGP largely doesn't make its own whiskey products. There's a couple like George Remus and Rossville Union, but they do bottling, production and bottling for all kinds of whiskey. Angel's Envy Rye, Bullet Rye, George Dickel Rye, Smooth Ambler, High West. They're all made at that MGP distillery in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. And there have been incidences of companies making whiskey and sort of implying that they're making it. This happened with Templeton Rye, where they weren't clear about the fact that it was actually made in Indiana from this massive producer, and they got in trouble with the FTC over it, had to change labeling and so forth, and actually provided refunds to folks. Because, these giant factory distillers they're considered like cheating in a way. Instead of, everybody wants to believe that the whiskey they're making is, this little distiller and these group of craftsmen are making that whiskey, and that's all there is to it. And, some of those manufacturers then go on to become much larger and huge production. And heck, we talked about Macallan the other day, just how huge that's become. Or even Jack Daniels, which, I have an appreciation of Jack Daniels, that they have one facility in Tennessee that produces all of their whiskey out of a pair of stills. But, MGP, the folks will buy from them and then do their own bottling, kind of conceal where they came from. And that's really quite a bad practice. And to be clear, this is not what Redemption Rye is doing. If you read their bottle, it's pretty clear that it's made of the way they're going about it. And they play with language a little bit there about it's an American-made spirit and so forth, and all of that is true. It's just not a dedicated still to making that product. That being said, it's a cool bourbon because it qualifies as bourbon because it's 60% corn on the mash bill, and then 36% rye, which would be very, very high by most standards. Then 4% barley, because that gives you your amylase, the sort of traditional mash bill. And then they age in new charred oak. It's a bourbon. It's made just like bourbon anywhere else. It's just that its rye content is quite high. And yet, having had some, and I couldn't bring any in here, but I've happily been having it at the bar all week, it is not got that big spice note. It's a very light, smooth drinking bourbon. That's been enjoyable in a part of the night so far, and I imagine going forward. So, not hard to come by. $32 for a bottle, not incredibly expensive for bourbon, but not the cheapest either. And a 46% ABV. It's funny that this is the bottle they call High Rye, because they also have a bottle they call Straight Rye, which is 95% rye. This High Rye is only 36%, but it's a High Rye bourbon as opposed to actually a rye whiskey. But yeah. It's now just produced by the Deutsch family as a popular whiskey, all manufactured by that massive facility in Lawrenceburg, Indiana.
I always think of bourbon as kind of smooth and sweet, but rye would make it a little bit more tangy.
Yeah, traditionally we talk about, you have corn, which is the sweet side, but not a lot of flavor. You have a little bit of barley because you need that amylase, so it's not really a flavor component, but it's just part of the chemistry. And then you have a flavor grain in between. And traditionally in bourbon, it would be rye, which adds that spice and character to it. And in some whiskeys, it would be red winter wheat, for example, in Maker's Mark or in Blanton's. And so, yeah, we've always associated rye with the spiciness. That's not necessarily how it comes across. And I think part of it is that in these large, the small distillers tend not to make rye because it gums up the works in pot stills.
Oh.
But these large producers who have the enzyme controls and so forth, they can handle rye. And so one of the things you notice about MGP is they make a lot, even Angel's Envy, who has their own distilling facility in Louisville, Kentucky, makes their rye at MGP. So that they don't have to deal with the challenges of actually distilling rye. So they do that over there. Although when they're finished with, when the production is finished at MGP, then Angel's Envy brings it back to their facilities and puts it into sherry cask to finish, which is the Angel's Envy signature, right?
I love Angel's Envy. If I like Angel's Envy, would this be a good bourbon to try?
No, this one's nowhere near associated with Angel's Envy, but to just point out the fact that like MGP makes a lot of whiskey for a lot of places,
right,
although they often will do additional steps to it to finish it their way and do their own bottling.
Right.
But I think the main thing is that MGP has built out the infrastructure to do large-scale rye distillation because it is so challenging. So it's a profitable business for them. And many major producers and well-known brands like Bulleit and George Dickel and Angel Envy and so forth leverage MGP's expertise to do their ryes for them as rye has become more popular. This Redemption's a funny little group because they were never a big facility. They were literally two guys, a few staff doing the marketing, good labels, good bottles. Like you noticed right away how good that bottle was.
Oh, it's beautiful. Yeah.
That was their business. And what they were doing was repackaging some produced rye from MGP and turn it into a tidy, successful little business. So we always get into what is whiskey really about, right? And I do love the craftsmanship. And one could argue, like, the only crafting here was the crafting of that label and how they made the thing look, because they were using this bulk produced rye.
Yeah, it's all branding. I love the name too, Redemption, branded. And their logo. Yeah. Choose Redemption, rise above. And Yeah.
Well, and they did all that play, and I did all kinds of research on it. Is this a family thing or anything? Nope, they fabricated the whole thing, just making a brand.
So
They
this
caught the
guy,
Rye
Alan
wave, just
Kennedy,
become popular.
master blender, it's not.
Well, and he's going through the barrels that he's getting from MGP and getting to a flavor profile to assemble an edition. I mean,
Okay.
that is
So he is.
everyone does that. That is a normal thing to do.
Yeah.
But when you talk about like the single maltness or this terroir, that's not really the issue here.
Right.
MGP sits in the middle of Indiana, corn country, because they got access to all the materials
All
to
the
produce
corn's
at
there.
scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you can pretty much order to specification. Like, what do you want, and how many casks do you want, like that, and then off you go. Is it cheating? In the end, they're still making a brand, selecting a recipe, getting it produced at scale consistently, and making a product that people seem to like for a reasonable price. It's not what I look for in craftsmanship whiskey, but I'm telling you, I keep drinking this stuff. Like, it goes down just fine.
They also have a wheated bourbon and a cognac cask finish.
Yeah. So, they're playing around. They're
Yeah.
trying some things on. And that's, like I said, the original guys have moved on now. In fact, Schmier's got a whole other set of brands that he's been involved in, and he's still visible in the industry. But as a guy who isn't bound to a distillery, but rather finds sources for whiskey, finds a flavor profile that he really likes with a blender, and then does a production run.
There's nothing I've learned from these segments. It's that there's a lot of flim flam and chicanery going on in the.
There are a lot of different ways to make a beverage that people like.
Yeah, and you shouldn't probably pay that much attention to it. I mean, Lisa loves her Blanco tequila. I know what you've told us now about that, but doesn't spoil her appreciation of a nice margarita. So
people ask me all the time, "What's my favorite whiskey?" It's like, it's the one in front of me. Like, I've done too many now to think ideologically about any of this. And now, after my experience in Macallan, drinking from a $10,000 bottle of whiskey, like, it's very good, but it's not something I want every day.
Not every day.
So I've done the spectrum. I tried them all, and there's stuff I like, stuff I don't. I don't like liars. And these guys aren't lying. Like, they're not telling the story.
We know the story. It's marketing.
Yeah.
It's a story. Yeah.
It's a pitch, and it's a real product. Like, this is not colored water with ethanol in it or anything. Right. It's actually.
I mean, as the wise man once said, "I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy."
It's true.
It's a low bar, but yeah, okay.
Thank you, Richard Campbell. Of course, Richard's Run His Radio is at runhisradio.com. .NET Rocks 2000th episode will be coming out any minute now, right?
Yeah, end of April.
And April, also at .NET Rocks. I'm sorry, runhisradio.com. And he joins us every week from wherever he is in the world.